Welcome to LawpracticeZa training videos. Today we are going to get into the meat of it, which is capturing time and making sure that you're in a position to accurately record what you've done when you've done it. One of the most important things in any law practice is to try and capture in real time. The problem if you don't capture in real time is that you end up with this backlog of administration which takes a fortune of time to try and get into the system. Think of it practically. If I don't capture things as I go along, what's going to happen? I'm going to have to try and find some time later in the day, later in the week, probably later in the month, to sit there and orientate my mind as to where I was when I needed to capture that in the first place. And while I'm orientating my mind and recapturing in bulk all the things I did a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, then I'm likely going to get interrupted with a phone call or have to pop out and everything grinds to halt and I have to come back and do it all over again. It's so much easier if you record it as and when it happens. So we're going to make that simple for you today. We're going to make it easy to get to. So when I look at the dashboard, you'll see all your matters in this pie graph, what's due, what's overdue, future, etc. So if I want to get to my due matters, I simply click on there and I can easily come to everything that is due for today. So for example, if I go into this SARS Acme Industries matter, just by clicking on it, it takes me to that matter page. Now the matter page has three basic elements. The first part is everything that you need to know about the client and the matter, the email addresses, who's got access to this particular matter, as well as on the right hand side any diary entries. So you can see, for example, we've got a diary note that's gone red, which means that diary note is overdue. I can also add new diary notes. If I want to create a new diary entry, I can do that. I'm going to come back to that in a later video as well. But most importantly, we're really worried about capturing fees. So you can see the middle part of the page is about capturing fees, and it is so simple. So for example, this matter is at a higher rate, and you'll notice that that higher rate will change according to who it is. So if it's Sarah, who's my clerk, for example, the higher rate will be at a totally different rate than if it is Matthew. So simply if I go and say consultation, okay, Sarah's high rate is 2,000, but if I'm on Matthew, my high rate is 3,500. So you can see the difference. If I then, for example, want to capture the consultation, and by the way, you can also talk to this rather than type, depending on what your preference is. But if I say consultation with client to discuss, and we also have a spell checker, so let's make a spelling mistake, and you can see it picks it up straight away. I right click and I correct the spelling mistake. So there's a lot of very standard stuff to make it simple, because whatever you're capturing here is going to appear on the invoice. You'll still be able to edit it, and it's going to capture everything by default as unbilled. In other words, it's going to record it, but it won't become income until such time as it is invoiced. Very important to note. So if I now have finished that consultation note, and I can put in quite a lengthy note if I want, and as I said, if you've got Windows and you press the Windows key and H, it will come up with a little voice icon, and as you can see, it will pick up very quickly everything that I'm saying. Very nice and powerful in terms of you guys are obviously do a lot of dictation, so that should be pretty easy for you to do. So I'm just going to put issues, just round it off. So once I've done my narrative, whether I've spoken it in or whether I've typed it in, I simply go and say, well, that was 45 minutes and save. And that's how simple it is to do a fee. Now there are a couple of different types of fees. You've got time-based fees and you've got unitary-based fees. Unitary is normally cost recovery. For example, let's give a couple of examples. You've got making copies, you've got traveling to and from court. So if I traveled and I said, well, you know, it was $4.50 a kilometer and I did 100 kilometers, you'll see it will calculate that and record that as a unitary fee. Other unitary fee types could be fixed fees. For example, I could have a 2-hour agreed fee if you want to do a one-line fee. The other thing could be used for is page-based. I'm drafting page-based, for example. So unitary fees are used quite a lot. Also, if you have SLAs with banks, quite often they will have a fixed fee or a milestone fee, and that will always appear under unitary because it's determined by the bank and you can only charge that amount. You can't charge per hour. So unitary or time. And then in a later video, we'll come to disbursements. We're not going to worry too much about that now. The other way to do fees, let's say, for example, I'm sitting in my dashboard, phone goes, I don't know which matter it is. Before the phone goes, I could simply come into the timesheet, and while I'm sitting there, first of all, the timesheet will tell me what I've done for the day in terms of hours and fees. You can see the different colors, different matters, and when I want to go and record a fee for a particular phone call, consultation, whatever the case may be, I can literally go and click on the timesheet anywhere, drag my mouse, search for the matter, so we'll use our old SARS matter, and it then takes me to the fee screen and I can go and capture the fee. Okay, so that's another way of getting to the fee screen and be able to capture from there. Here it's filled in the amount of time. I don't have to accept that. I can also use the timer if I want. Now if I use the timer, that will then time in the background, and if I forget about it, it will keep it on the dashboard, and what it will look like is the following. You'll see there's the timer going, and if there are multiple timers, it will line those up. Now sometimes obviously you're going to have multiple timers going, you might need to pause one, go back to the other, but what I like about this is that make sure that you don't forget that you've got time running, and even if you have to go back to those multiple timers and adjust the time, you're never going to forget the fee. So using the timer is often a very good strategy in terms of making sure that you capture things. If you're in a fast-paced environment, things are flying across your table, you're taking multiple phone calls, etc. Okay, the other thing that we want to look at is how you use your meta diary to diarize files and work with them. So obviously, as I showed you earlier, you can click on anywhere on that paragraph, you can go to a particular matter, and now in that matter you can create a diary entry. Okay, and I can say, well, I'm creating it for today. I can set a due date if it's something that's going to start today and end on a particular due date, or I can just say, right, it's just a task and it needs to be done by the 25th. I can do that. Put in the notes, please collate and paginate docs. I'm sending this to my clerk. I'm going to assign it to, let's say, Sarah, and I might, for example, attach the documents. Okay, so I can attach anywhere and attach any documents. So for example, if I go into litigation documents and I say I want to look at say collections, and I want to attach that, I've now attached that document, it becomes part of that task, and I can click save, and that then stores that as a diary entry for Sarah. You can see that she's got one that's overdue and one that's due. If she has worked on that particular task and completed it, she will be able to mark it as complete by just choosing the tick. Now the other way that you can interact with the calendar is visually, and that means not looking at a matter specifically. So here we're talking about I'm at a particular matter. What happens if I want to see absolutely everything? Well, then you would use the calendar. You click on calendar and you can see it's very colorful. It shows you all the different matters, and the beauty is you can interact with this. So if I want to take something and move it to another date, I just click, drag, drop, and it re-diarizes for me. Then I don't have to go into the matter and move the diary date, as the case may be. It just merely updates. It's now changed that particular setting, and if I want to go to any particular matter from the calendar, I just click on it and it will take me to the matter. So just to recap, you should now be able to capture fees via the matter page, capture fees directly into the timesheet itself, capture both time-based and unitary fees, including cost recovery fees, create diary entries from the matter page, and create, view, and edit diary entries directly from the calendar. Please remember that at any time, if you need to ask a question, if you're unsure about anything, you can, at the bottom of every single page in LawpracticeZa, you can go down on the screen. I'll show you quickly. You submit a support request. It will pop up with a screenshot of where you were, so that the question is related to where you were. You would then put in what the issue was, whether it was a general inquiry or a bug, and you'd fill out the form as prescribed, and that gets emailed to everybody. We will then be aware of your issue, and somebody will contact you either to sort it out or to do a quick training session with you, and that way you can learn the system that much quicker. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.